It is time to talk about your money here on Good Morning Quad Cities at 11. Well, maybe when making future plans, we don't always think about planning for after we're gone. But for anyone who has lost someone, you know that trying to fulfill a loved one's final financial wishes, it can be tricky if it's not set up in advance. So helping us break down this delicate topic is Drew Campman with True Financial Partners in Bettendorf. Good morning, Drew. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good morning. How are you today?
I am doing well. Thank you so much for being
Good.
willing to talk about this. So
Sure.
talk about why planning for end-of-life financial planning, why is that important?
I mean, there's numerous reasons why you really want to spend some time focusing on end-of-life planning, or also what we call it your estate plan, and make sure that that's in place. It's an important piece of your overall financial plan. And there's a lot of really good reasons to have that in place. And number one, I would kind of go back to your first statement regarding the attempt to fulfill, someone's or a loved one's final financial wishes. And, this can't be accomplished unless you have everything in place and having done that up front. So, during a difficult time, and those that have been through it understand how emotional that time period is, and having to make big, important financial decisions at that time can be overwhelming. So it's really important to have all these things laid out, all the correct documents, all the correct planning in place ahead of time, so your loved ones don't have to do that. And another part to that would be if it's not in place, courts or states may be able to take over that process, and those assets or that planning can be taken over by them and delivered to maybe somebody that you didn't want being a part of that plan. So really, to fulfill those wishes, have that laid out. And then the last one I would say is, to make sure that your loved ones are taken care of financially in the case of your absence. Those are important factors to lay that structure in place, so your loved ones can take over, deliver the assets according to your wishes, but also take care of your loved ones.
Prior to television, I worked in banking, and I always hated having those conversations of having to tell somebody, no, you can't do what somebody laid out in their will. So what are some other ways that you can plan? Because just because it's written down in one area doesn't necessarily mean that that's how it can actually happen.
Where I would start with your powers of attorney. That has to do with financial and property. And also added to that would be healthcare. Those are tools that are going to be in place before or ahead of time. So that way, if you become incapacitated, somebody else can step in and help make those decisions for you or take care of your financial affairs. Another perspective would be take care of your beneficiary designation on all of your assets, or death, what they call TOD or POD, paid on death. Make sure all the beneficiary designation is complete and up to date. Anything that's not or doesn't have the ability to put a beneficiary designation on would fall over into your will. So you want to have a will in place. That's your directive on how assets are going to be delivered at death. And if there may be a need for a trust, which is another topic, but again, it's all about how do we deliver those assets when we're done with them. And life insurance also can be an important piece to that. Life insurance is a great tool because it can pay off debt. It can help your spouse replace your income that you may have been having, or it may pay for college education. Those are all important pieces that life insurance can play a role in to help be successful financially in your absence. So those are all great tools. Even maybe prepaid final expenses, like a final expense policy. You can purchase that, or maybe even prepay your funeral costs. Those are all good tools where I would start or recommend people start on.
And it's, of course, important to make sure you're communicating with your loved ones that these are the plans that you have in place. But, some of us may be watching this and thinking, when should we start planning? Maybe there's a 20-something out there that is that's watching, and they're thinking, well, it's too early for me. But when should somebody start planning?
I mean, ideally, everybody should have all these in place that I just described, specifically the will, powers of attorney. I kind of relate it to once you start your first job and you own something, meaning you're owning a position or a job and you have income, you probably have other things that you own. So you really want to start that young, just like your savings plan.
All right, Drew. Thank you so much for spending your time with us this morning. We'll be right back.
Have a great day.